and Happy New Year. Kind of a strange start again to the new year. I think the power of community is a beautiful thing. And so I'm glad to see all your faces here today. And I hope you all are staying well and staying as positive as we can. So if you have questions, hopefully the chat is working, that you can go ahead and ask in the chat. It looks like we're a small enough group that we probably can also just chime in if that's okay. And maybe I'll let Mr. Foreman start. I do want to put a little plug. Most of the people I see on here are very tuned in, but I did want to give a little plug for the let's see, this is an interesting name. There's somebody waiting. We'll see how that goes. Did want to put a little plug in for the MLK Day events. And I don't know, I just got the booklet in the mail yesterday, which was exciting. And hopefully some of you have also had time to look at the digital flip book. Everyone did a really nice job. I think SCORE did a really nice job so quickly putting that together. So kudos to everyone who had worked on that team. And then on Monday, obviously we can't gather, but there are different things going on, including a live event that we can zoom into that has links in all the information with a DJ, and it should be fun and entertaining. So I encourage people to get as involved as they can. So. Okay. And Mr. Foreman, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. Good luck.
Okay.
So good to see everybody. I guess this is the appropriate time to say Happy New Year. I'm not sure what day it is, but it also feels a long time ago. So it's been quite a week and a half in our world. So it does. My wife and I were talking last night about how just time feels so bizarre right now. So so absolutely Happy New Year. I hope everybody had a wonderful break. It was really nice. I loved the non-obligation of travel and having to go see my in-laws and do all these things that we do all the time, and when are we leaving and when are we coming and we just did nothing, and it was it was great. So I feel really good about that, and look forward to a nothingness time again at some point in my life. But we, the big thing is, and you should get an email from the school today from Liz, just with the re-upping kind of our plan to return on Tuesday. And so a reminder of expectations and entry doors and schedules. And, we're trying to put it all in one email so that it's just one singular thing with all links to videos. The majority of kids are remaining, I would say, like, overall, like, the kids in the building are the same kids in the building, and the kids remaining at home are the same kids remaining at home, with a little bit of difference. We're probably a net 10 kids more in the building, but generally it's about the same, which I think from a planning perspective is really helpful in a lot of ways. Like, there's not been a lot of we've had some furniture moving and whatnot, but it's been overall a lot simpler than the first time. And so the teachers have all been in the building this week, and with a couple of exceptions, and we're just getting ready for Tuesday. And so that's kind of the main focus right now, is ensuring that we're ready to go for that. And a lot of our teachers have worked hard on different iterations of what concurrent teaching is going to look like, and trying to figure out ways to do that. We learned a lot in the 2 weeks that we were on site. But just, what is possible to split your brain in two spaces and what is not, and when is it better to be focused on, and this is also very dependent on the grade. Obviously the independence of kindergartners is very different than the independence of fourth graders. So being able to work with families on that with our youngest students, and sort of, when are we focused on a whole class community? When are we focused on different small group communities? And so you should be hearing some specifics from your classroom teacher related to that. And I have no doubt that those will adjust over time. But first, I generally am very optimistic that a lot of the learnings that we had in November are going to, help us out a lot now that we're coming back in January. The biggest, and I know we talked about this and it's in this email communication again, is just arrivals and drop-offs are just very different. And so in a lot of ways, the arrivals and drop-offs, there were a lot of really positive things about the arrivals and drop-offs. I don't know how many, I know the people who live closest to the school were able to see it the most, but arrival was actually like remarkably calm in this very peaceful kind of way. I mean, people just kind of walked, kids walked in, they walked right into their classrooms. Like it was really nice. So I'm assuming that will continue. And then dismissals is a little bit more chaotic, just trying to get everybody to the right dismissal areas. So just if people can, please continue to do what they were doing when we were here in November, I think we'll be good to go. So those are my main updates. And just, totally open to questions and, thoughts like that. And then I think it makes sense, I would like to, I know we have a couple of these on the calendar in the coming weeks as well, because I think there's a reality that as we get back on the ground, there's going to be some things that we're going to want to tweak and address, and feedback's going to be really important with that. So I'd like to do that. And on that, I'll just, I'm sorry, one other thing. So, and some of you have fourth graders. So we've moved forward with Onaway Little Theater, and Kelly Monahan, who's our long time now director, is going to continue to work with us this year. And she has some ideas and structures that she's been using already this year for sort of an online Zoom recorded meets recorded, then spliced together performance. And so the plan right now is to do kind of a best of Broadway review of all songs about overcoming together, sort of togetherness, and so that should be.
Come on, Eric, sing the High School Musical song.
I know every time, so that's why I deliberately don't say we're all in this together, because that immediately pops into my mind. And I didn't even watch that show, so that's actually.
I know you want to sing it.
I'm going to save my singing for the Zoom recorded Onaway Little Theater. I may or may not have secretly been annoyed that I've not yet been asked to sing at any of the Onaway Little Theaters, but
it seems like you should be making a yearly cameo.
I tend to think that it's yet to be asked. So I think that
this is your year.
It's your year. You can audition.
You know what? I think I'm going to do it. The idea though of that being recorded and available for consumption for the next 150 years actually makes me very nervous. So live performance is more my gig. But I'm really excited about it. And I think first and foremost, we wanted the kids to know that there's a commitment to doing something. I think that, and we wanted to make sure that we were gonna, we have not like officially launched this with students yet, but I think kids are aware that we're going to do something. But I want to make sure that whatever we do is something that no matter what the spring may bring, is something that we feel very confident that we can produce, right? So that there isn't any like build up and loss. So this is something that, whether we're in school on site for the rest of the school year or not, or we have more kids come in the spring or not, like whatever that might be, we can produce this and all kids can be involved. So feeling good about that at this point, and we will always need help and volunteers. And so more information to come on that. But that's the plan. So I turn it over to the group.
I have a question.
Sure.
So one of the concerns we had when we were back in school was the fact that the in-school students were spending a lot of time yet on the Chromebooks. So are there plans to address that in the coming week?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on individual classrooms. So I think that's a conversation that we can have with individual teachers. But also there's a difference. I think one thing that we're trying to balance now is like what are kids doing on the computer, because that's the mode in which we can only engage with that. So, and then what are kids doing on the computer that could be printed, right? And so I think that there's a balance there, that I still think needs to be totally hashed out and cleared up. But we definitely, with on-site students, have more ability to be doing things like, you know, on paper than we do at home. Although the plan is still to continue pickups and drop-offs of materials, but that obviously is more constraining. So I would encourage you to just, you know, take a look at what your kids are bringing home, talking to you about, and then, you know, we can engage with teachers about that as it comes up. But the goal is to have a nice balance.
Okay. Is it the same teacher for in person and virtual? Or
Yeah, so we're
remote?
still doing, and a lot, and so much of that too is variable. Is we may remember, like, we have some classes where we only have 1 or 2 kids online in a classroom, and we have some classrooms where about half the kids in the class are online. And so so while teachers on the grade level have worked tremendously well together, it's been one of the real highlights of a challenging year. It's just different, you know, like then the mode of like delivering that is different depending on the makeup of your classroom.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question, and it can be on safety or anything. For those kids coming back in, are there things that were done really well that you want us as parents just to continue to encourage our kids to do? And then maybe things that maybe just reminding them to keep their masks on and things like that, that you would like us to have conversations at home, just to reiterate that maybe we're a little bit of a struggle?
Yeah, I mean, Nicole, you have some perspective, you know, having been in the building supporting lunch a little bit. Like, I would say the kids overall, I was incredibly proud and happy with the mask wearing was really overall very good. I mean, we definitely had a few kids here or there who struggled with that for various reasons, but overall it was really good. And that's where the task of the mask campaign, those videos that Jackie Sir has been working on, that's really where that came from, was making it less about being a rule and more about like, why do we wear masks and what are we doing this for? And so we're going to continue that program, as well as oh my gosh, I'm totally going to blank on it now, what she's calling it, but we're going to do it in conjunction with, you know, it's not going to be Valentine's Day, but around Valentine's Day, some kids are, oh my gosh, it's like Stars of Hope or something. She has a really great name for it. I can't remember it offhand, but it's basically the idea that like kids are going to, you know, share gratitude and love and things in that manner, which I think has really been super key. But overall, like, in the classrooms, kids did a pretty good job of, I mean, I think we all can, it's very challenging to maintain 6-foot distance with young people at all times, right? I mean, that is just a reality of the situation. But overall, our kids did a really nice job of staying in their areas. When we transitioned in the hallway, we had a really positive visit from right before we went actually back out around Thanksgiving. We had a really positive visit from university hospitals. And Onaway happened to be, I think our location benefited us in this manner. Like, we were the elementary site that they came to. And so I toured with them, and they were really great at sort of talking about what they've seen and what they're seeing in their own workspace, and looking in our classrooms, and overall really gave a thumbs up to kind of the way we have things organized. And then also helped teachers with, you know, a simple example they gave was they're not seeing, or they're not able to be tracing transmission at that point back to like transitioning in the hallway, right? So there were times when like keeping 6-foot distance in the hallway is very hard when you have a line of 17 kids, which means that your line would be like 75 feet long if that was really happening. And so that was creating, I think, some stress for staff trying to just make sure that we're following these protocols. And what UH really said was, that's not where we're seeing it. If you're going to focus your energies on with kids, focus your energies with kids on mask wearing and maintaining distance in the classroom. Like, and if we're able to do that, and so that's really where I think our biggest pieces are going to be, are, you know, staying within our space, keeping our masks on, keeping distance as much as we can. And, you know, that's the way that we're going to keep each other the safest in school for the rest of the year. So I feel good about that, but you'll hear probably more and more about those things, because those are the main drivers we're going with right now. I do think you know, I think it's important too to just acknowledge. So we are working on a longer term library plan at this point. When we are moving back to concurrent learning, all of the library lessons are asynchronous, and they are created by our district librarians already. And so those should be, and you know, district librarians are getting those on the sites. And I think there's been some challenge this week in getting some of those where they needed to be. But the kinks with that should be worked out. And as long as we are remaining on site, that's going to be the procedure for that, at least for the time being. We're working on some on-site supports to support our library, short-term, long-term, that we're working, you know, I'm working through with our human resources department. But the short is, like, we're still really committed to getting books in the hands of kids, similar to we did before. Ms. Wemmer in many ways leads that charge already. And so she's raring to go. So I think it's just a matter of we were kind of ready to go with the distribution between Thanksgiving and Christmas time or holiday time. And then we went back into remote, and then we just weren't able to orchestrate the pieces parts of that. But I think sooner than later, we will be getting those out, like in the next couple of weeks with kids on site. They'll just go in their backpacks. And then for kids online, we'll have separate pickup times for library distributions for online only students. So yeah.
So Eric, I have a sort of piggybacking off the library sort of confusion for this week, and then some other things I've just noticed on the online. You had asked for maybe some feedback, and the one thing I think that has been frustrating is that the specials seem to be, there's lots of confusion about the specials and lots of confusion about where assignments for the specials are, because they're not putting due dates, so they don't show up in the Google To Do. And it's really hard for an 8-year-old to like scroll through his 6 classes and make sure they're all there. So I had sent previous an email regarding it, but it just seems to be an ongoing issue. So if we could just make sure that all the specials teachers are, I know a due date seems harsh, but in order, it's a trigger for it to show up in their to do on Classroom. It's so much easier for the kids. So if we can just get that all systematized, it'd be great.
Can I just add about the specials? Julian's completely opted out of all specials this year. And it's troubling to me that we've never been reached out to by a teacher. Like, they've never noticed. Wasn't mentioned in his report card. I'm, you know, at first I was not okay with it, but it's so disjointed from the rest of the morning remotely that, you know, I forget myself. And, you know, I think I'm comforted by the fact that I feel like we are able to supplement it. Like, Jim, I'll make him go run around the block or whatever. But it's been a little disappointing about the way that was structured this year. And, you know, with everything, I've just, like everybody else, you kind of choose your battles, but he's just completely opted out of it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, as you, you know, as you can imagine, there are, you know, one of the challenges we have with that are both timing, but also the fact that we share staff. And so some of the uniformity and connection between 5 buildings, or even more, I mean, some of our specialists work also in upper grades, has definitely led to some missteps in areas where that could be stronger. And then, one thing that's a unique challenge for us that I think we're going to see more in the next few weeks than we do when we're in fully remote is that all of those specialist teachers also serve for us as go-to substitutes. And as we re-enter into the building, I think we're going to see more, just inevitably, given the circumstances around us. I think inevitably we're going to see a few more teachers out for various reasons, right? And the need to have, and so I think we're going to see a lot of our special teachers utilized in that way consistently as well. I can share, we have a group that kind of works on specials in general. I think the due date idea seems like a very manageable solution to at least begin the process. So I will pass that along and see what we're able to do. Because the same is going to be, once we're fully asynchronous with specials, that same thing is going to be true. So I think it's something that we can address over the coming weeks.
I mean, I also know, and I hear you about the lack of time and resources. I also think, though, that if there is an assignment and they do it, like even like you can cut and paste, it would take for a class of 30, maybe 3 or 4 minutes to cut and paste one comment to put it in the private comment box. Because just hearing something from a teacher acknowledging that you've done the work, that they got, I mean, to me, that's the loop that needs to be closed, or else again, like it just feels like it goes into a void and nobody's. So, I mean, a very efficient way to do it is just to say, you can just literally Word document, cut and paste comment, put it in the private comments on Google Classroom for every single, I mean, the students don't compare and contrast, right? But so just an idea to try to have more engagement.
Eric, are you seeing changes to enrollment at Onaway throughout the year and concerns for next year?
Well, so just I shared at the beginning that we have like a net gain of like 10 kids in the building for now. We haven't, in terms of like overall enrollment, we lost, I mean, we have a number of families. I mean, I wish I could get an exact number, but we have maybe 8 to 10 families that are homeschooling right now. And we have probably about the same, maybe 10 to 15 total that are utilizing a private school now, some of which have said that change is likely permanent, and some have said that change is due to like we were remote in the fall. We have not had anything, we haven't had any change like that in the last number of months. I mean, most of that was pretty early on. We have a homeschool family that's planning to return soon, like I think there's just an ebb and flow. I mean, my assumption too is that we will see a much larger influx of families to on-site schooling in the spring. That may just be, I may be totally off with that, but in my mind, I see the March, April time being when we're going to have more of the online only families choosing to return in the building. And the other piece is we have a particularly small kindergarten, which
Right.
I think could have been anticipated. So I think that in my mind, we're going to have a really large kindergarten next year. And they're going to be a little older than our traditional kindergarten. So we'll have like super kindergartners. So I think that would be my assumption. But overall, our numbers are not dynamically different, but we are down probably like, I don't know, 30 or so kids as compared to last year. So it's a fair amount, but it's not dramatically drastic.
Okay, because I just hear anecdotal information talking to a number of families. I know some as recent as last week switched to private, and just wondered how much of a district-wide issue, and then if there's a good handle on an idea of how many families will return and how many won't.
Yeah, and I don't. I mean, I would say the short answer is the majority of families that I've spoken to have said they plan to return. That being said, I think we all know circumstances change and all of that. I haven't on one hand, I've not really heard from, I know the district right now is working on, sort of enrollment launch for kindergarten for next year. Because I really did not hear from very many kindergarten families at the beginning of the year in terms of like, we're going to wait a year. I thought I would get more of that and I didn't, but the numbers say there are plenty out there. Because our kindergarten numbers have been pretty consistent for the 5 years I've been here, and this year we're probably 10 or 15 lower than we normally are.
Thanks.
I know Margot's class, can you hear me? Sorry, I had to put earphones on. I know Margot's class has 2, if not 3 new students. So are you also seeing more people coming in, or is that just an anomaly for Margot's class?
Well, it's an anomaly in that class in particular had a number of students over the course of the year that had left. And so when you have someone leave, someone gets to take that spot. Our new enrollment is probably pretty normal. Like we've had maybe 5 new students in the last 3 months or so. Really unique time to come to a new school. I really so we've tried to really engage those families and those kids. Starting school remotely is hard. And so we have, it's really unique in that, we have kiddos in the 4th grade who are remote only students who were new to us for 4th grade. And it is conceivable that they'll finish at Onaway without ever having been in the building, which I just find kind of, just as a story of the pandemic, kind of a unique reality for those kiddos. And then for some of you who have Mrs. Demidovich, she's new to our building this year, and over the course of the year has been here plenty, but like she's only taught students in this building for 10 days. And so it's just something just like unique stories of the pandemic that, are just unique work and school experiences. But I think that we'll, hopefully, going forward, we'll have the opportunity for in-person schooling kind of going forward, is my hope at this point. Sarah.
Quick question. So this is shifting gears a little, but I'm wondering, I think I probably already know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Has there been any discussion about a plan for vaccines for teachers?
No, so
what you might say that.
Yeah. What we know so far is we did get an email. So we all got it was a Google form, which I thought was kind of amazing that Google Forms have gone the place that now they're how you sign up for vaccines. But we got a Google form from the County Board of Health that asked us if we were planning, like our name and district, and that we would, be, phase 1B, and would we be planning to get the vaccine, and when would be the best time, like Monday through Saturday, and then it gave times of day. So there's been movement on that regard, which was exciting. But what we heard last through the grapevine is like February, early February, which I tend to think if they're saying early February, it's probably going to be mid-February. But I think that for a lot of our staff, I think that that's really good news. I think people feel really good about that, and overall, we'll get moving on that. But if anybody has any inside information or access, just let me know.
I heard Mr. Van, he said, they should get the school nurses at every school to be able to administer. I thought, that's brilliant. And he said, yeah, I'd have to talk to the governor on that. And I said, no, can't you just take it all the way up? So Eric, I think you're in charge of that now.
I have no question that we will be administering, cold freezing, doing all the, I no, in all seriousness, I do know that the district, part of the process has been, they're looking for places to do things. And so I know the district is collaborating with the county in terms of, I mean, quite frankly, if we could do it on site, or on site meaning in Shaker, that would be phenomenal. I think that would expedite the process considerably. So I'm actually still holding out hope that that's the way we do flu shots. Like we get flu shots all at the high school, and it just makes the whole thing. I don't have any data to support it, but I am confident that like for those flu shots, we have significantly more people who get them because they can get them next door. So
They at the board meeting, they said that they would be administering them at the schools.
like officially. Or is that
Beth, I don't know, you could confirm, but I'm pretty sure Glasner said, he didn't say if it was at every single school, but it was a pretty, declarative statement. I don't think it was, I don't know. We can go back and watch the Zoom, but I'm pretty sure
that would be awesome. I would love that. And again, I think our location here will benefit us because the likelihood if we need a large space, it's likely the high school. So that would be great.
So I have just another logistical question about lunch. So is lunch going to be working the same way it worked in 2020, where everybody is provided a hot lunch if they want it, or should we be like thinking about pay for it, or how is the government working on that?
That's a great question. So it's still free for the whole school year. So if kids want hot lunch, they can sign up at the beginning of the day. That was actually one thing that many of you know Miss Kim. You've met Miss Kim, who works in our lunchroom. She was really flexible around all of that. And we've kind of moved her, like she's now in this little nook area, like back where the kitchen, like those of you who know where like the kitchen and the 5 refrigerators and things we have. She's in there now, and she was really great about getting things to the classrooms. Like breakfasts were there before breakfast, lunches were there before lunch. And I think we did have a fair number of kids who don't typically eat school lunch who were utilizing it. And so I've said this to a lot of you many times, like I hate packing lunches. It's like my least favorite thing in the whole world. And so the fact like Evie's eats school lunch and it's my greatest accomplishment. So yeah, breakfast is available for kids, like absolutely utilize the program and spread the word on that too, because there's many families and that we've talked to that weren't totally aware of that, and that it has been extended through June. So it's completely for the rest of the school year.
How does that practically work? Like when she comes around, is she like, I have pizza today or whatever?
So the kids, so the menus, we have a menu, like a monthly menu, so that we know what it's a little less complicated in some ways than it used to be. We used to have 2 options every day, right? Now there's just one main option. And at the beginning of the day, the teachers just ask kids, and then they put it in a Google Doc that she has access to. And then it says, Miss Willette needs 9 lunches. And then Miss Kim just brings those 9 lunches up and has them sitting there before the lunch period starts. So there is a decision point at the beginning of the day. Breakfast, we just make assumptions. So we kind of go off of like, typically it's like 4 breakfasts in this room, so we'll put 5. And then by the end of the 2 weeks, she was pretty right on and knew that it's kind of always 3 in this room and always 5 in this room. And she kind of took care of all of it. It was a tremendous, she took the whole weight off of all of us with that. It was really awesome.
Eric, is it the district paying for these, or I was a little unclear where the funding for that is from?
Federal. It's
federal?
It's federal. Yeah.
So that's, I mean, all school districts across the country are getting this right now?
As far as I understand it, yeah. This was, pretty expansive federal. It was till January 1st, and then they extended it.
I think it's Title I schools. I think schools districts with Title I funds, I think. But
That would make sense. Okay. Thanks.
Eric, what
Yeah.
is how does breakfast, I'm just trying to picture like breakfast in the classroom. Like, what is the timing of that? And also, how does that feel? Like when there's 4 kids eating breakfast while the other kids are like, I ate breakfast at home this morning. Or like, I'm just curious how that works
Yeah.
logistically and also how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, I would, so it depends a lot on the grade. So we have to put an end time, right? Just for like logistical purposes. And that's particularly true in our younger grades. So to give you an example, like kindergartners hadn't been in the building, right? And so they had never attended school. So they came in the building and someone said, you can eat this food if you want to. And all of them said, sure, like, you want to give me food? Like, I'm gonna eat it. So then that started to be, you know, as we all know, feeding 5 and 6-year-olds, like they could eat for 5 minutes or they could eat for 75 minutes, you know, like it's just, so then the teachers have put like a time frame on it and they've said, okay, by 8:45, we're going to be starting morning meeting. And that's when breakfast has to be over. And, but we had a lot of kids eating breakfast this year that may not have eaten breakfast traditionally. I don't know if, I mean, those of you who've been around for a while, 4 to 5 years ago, we used to have our breakfast program at Onaway where kids who wanted breakfast would come in the building early and they would eat breakfast in the cafeteria and then they would go to class. So about 3 years ago, we ended that practice because it was just to say, I mean, it was just very segregated, right? And so we would have students eating coming later into their classrooms. And so we eliminated that. And for the last 3 years, kids have all been taking breakfast to the classroom anyway. And so that way we're not missing any instruction. We're all starting the day together. And that has led to more kids eating breakfast in general. Sometimes we've had to, you know, when it was not free, we would often have phone calls to parents and be like, why am I getting a bill for like $47? Like, we don't eat breakfast or lunch. And it'd be like, no, your kid eats breakfast every day. And we would have a conversation with the kid and say, your mom doesn't want you to eat breakfast, right? You're eating breakfast
Because
at
we
home.
feed you in the morning. My kid eats 2 breakfasts.
They're just hobbits having their second breakfast. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
And
Yeah,
so,
but we feed
so often teachers would communicate with families about that, but that's just sort of been our general mode has been to eat. And some kids are eating, some kids aren't. Some kids bring granola bars that they want to eat. Like it becomes kind of like a morning snack as much as anything else. And then, but I feel like overall in the last 3 years, that process has been done a lot more holistically and healthy and less stigmatizing than it had been done, you know, a number of years ago. I will say, I mean, and this is my just 2 cents on breakfast. I will say that I feel like there's still, this is totally me speaking as Eric Foreman, not necessarily as representative of anything beyond myself. I still think there's more work that we could do in relation to like what the breakfast is. I think it's pretty processed and it's pretty sugary. And so I think lunch tends to be a lot better as it relates to that and is so that's just one thing that's on a long list of things. And we do have like a food and nutrition committee that works with ABI, and that eventually when our ABI contract is up, we'll re-up that contract with them or with another food service provider. But that's one thing for me in general, I think we could do a better job with over time.
Can I add to that? I remember one time I happened to be in one of the kindergarten rooms when Margot was there, and kids were sitting with breakfast, and I think they got chocolate milk, a juice, and hopefully it's gotten better even since 2 years ago, but chocolate milk, a juice, and then something very sugary. So I would add to that. I don't know if there's a way that like you can't have chocolate milk in the morning, or you can't, I hate to do that, but something like that, because I think of the teachers after that too. And if that's that child's only breakfast, I think that doesn't prepare them very well for the day.
Yeah, I'm totally, you know, I think that's something through that like food and nutrition, health and nutrition committee there are a lot of rules around federal food. So, and most of them are really great and important, and some of them are really well intended, but then also lead to like unintended consequences. But overall, I agree.
Eric, what are you most excited for next week, and what are you most concerned about?
That's a great question. So I'm most excited about having kids in the building. Like unquestionably, it's just yeah. The last 10 months. I mean, we had them for 2 weeks, and I of course see kids in Zoom rooms all the time. But like, you know, this may not come as a shock to anybody, but I went into this field to spend time like physically present with young people. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's probably the easiest answer, maybe a bit of a cop-out answer, but I would say that the thing I am most worried about is what we see in other school districts is it's not illness that prevents the maintenance of in-person schooling, it's staffing. And I mean that in that, you know, we have quarantine rules and we have, you know, things that in order to keep us safe, you know, end up taking teachers out for a period of time, taking kids out for a period of time, and just wanting to ensure that not only are we physically present, but we're also providing the absolute best education that we can provide. And so I know that we've talked a lot here about like this week's been a perfect example. Like we've all been in this building and I have not been in the same room with anybody pretty much all week. And so that idea that like we're going to get our kids in the building, we're going to be in our rooms with our kids, and we're going to support each other. And yes, we need other adults when we need other adults, but like we're really going to try to keep ourselves safe by following those guidelines to the best of our ability. But that would definitely be my biggest worry, is just wanting to maintain both staffing, but just like high quality learning. Sarah?
So I don't know if anybody else saw, but I certainly saw the open letter posted by John Morris to the Teachers Association page online. And I'm wondering, you know, honestly, what the feeling is amongst Onaway staff about being back in the building. So I know some of that negativity sometimes is felt in the classroom. I've seen it. And I just want to make sure that our kids are actually, you know, not receiving that tension.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the letter specifically. I don't hear it. That's not to say that it's not, it doesn't exist. I mean, I think there's unquestionably trepidation that some feel more than others. But I mean, in the Thursday. So in the 4 days that we've been here all together again, like I haven't heard it.
That's good.
I wouldn't anticipate that. And, you know, every opportunity that we've had where kids have been in the building, like sometimes it's just a matter of like, you know, you just, those muscles kick back in, right? Like you some muscles have atrophied over the course of like, you know, and then all of a sudden you realize that it's school. And like, we know how to do school, like we know how to do in-person school, like, and so I don't anticipate a concern on that. I know for other particularly, I mean, you know, our high school has not been in yet.
Yeah.
So I think that getting over that initial piece is part of it, is part of this process.
And the numbers are much higher at the high school with high school students.
You mean in terms of the number of kids?
The number of
COVID cases.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. And
I was just
yeah,
gonna say, I hope that I haven't seen this latest letter, but I would hope that some of that is directed at the state, who I personally think we would be in a much different place if we would have prioritized education over drinking in bars. So, you know, we have enough research that shows schools are not super spreader spaces. And it's just frustrating as a parent to see, you know, private schools religious schools who have been in person and who are doing it well and have been, and they don't have the teachers union, however you feel about teachers union, but we have examples in the community right here of in-person education working. So the negative discourse is emotionally draining on top of everything else you're facing as a parent or as a family, whatever your work situation is. So yeah, just putting that out there, that I hope the union is directing that, not just at the administration, but at other priorities that have been made by the decision makers at the state.
Yeah, and federally and otherwise. I do. Yes, prioritizing education would have definitely fallen in my to-do list during all of this, but I really, yeah, I do not anticipate I don't anticipate a concern when we get back. But that being said, I'll be out and about from 6 feet apart to check it all out. And that is one benefit actually to the concurrent teaching situation, is I can be in classrooms without being in classrooms. So that helps too.
I feel like in general, and maybe this is just my perspective as a parent, that morale at Onaway is just pretty positive anyway amongst teachers. And maybe that's my reading into it. But hopefully that's the case too, because I know sometimes as you get older, teachers might have more complaints about the whole system. I don't know. But hopefully you still feel like this week that maybe the morale is good and people are excited despite numbers and things, that sometimes you just, like you said, you just got to get back in and then remember, no, this is what we do. This is what we know how to do this.
Yeah, and I think I would say that it is unique to be in the building right now. Like, many of you have been very actively involved and have been in this building a lot during the day. And if you spend time at Onaway, you hear a lot of laughing, you hear a lot of, sort of gregarious chatter, like all of this. It's quieter here. I mean, there's a lot more closed doors and things that are just a product of COVID. But I do feel like, the morale in this building continues to be, a real strength. So. Anything else out there I can answer?
Yeah, anything else? And is there anything else even from PTO's standpoint that we need to know, or besides MLK things right now going on, anything else that people are questioning or wondering about?
We are starting a Tasty Tuesday program for the teachers. We bought a Keurig coffee, like a new Keurig maker for the staff lounge. And then we're gonna do it by class wise. So like we'll work with the room parents. And every Tuesday, I think because I'm in Gillette's class, I'll probably have Gillette go this Tuesday, but we're gonna have parents drop off, Mrs. Rice knows, pre-packaged snacks, treats, and then little K-cups. So I'll have a sign-up genius that'll get distributed out, and each Tuesday will be based on the classroom. It's a little ambitious to try to do it every Tuesday, but I think the more we can support the teachers, the better. So that's my shameless PTO help plug of the day.
Will you have the option to send money if, we're not able to get out and about and shop?
Yeah, I think that's probably something you could talk to your homeroom rep about, that if you wanted to Venmo them money instead. Absolutely, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is not about that same thing, Abby, or I guess Laura, whoever. I need to create a sign up genius for something for OLT. And so does Onaway still have like a sign up I know I've used it before for like kindergarten orientation and stuff. Is there an Onaway sign up genius that I can like get into to make a sign up for OLT?
I think so. We've done very few signups this year, so I haven't had a lot of practice with it, but I think so. I'll send you
Yeah.
stuff. I'll send you what I can.
Okay.
I think so though.
Okay.
And then my shameless plug is that next Wednesday evening, we have a PTO meeting at 6:45 for Onaway. And then at 7:30, Keith Langford from the district, who is in charge of FACE, is going to be speaking for the speaker series from 7:30 to 8:30. And those links are going to be in the Sunday newsletter from the district.
Definitely had that on my calendar, so I'm not typing it in right now.
That's funny. I'm actually looking at mine. I'm like, how is that not on there? I like put everything in, I thought.
The different schools, the 5 elementary schools, are all taking turns organizing the speaker series this year. And between the holidays and stuff, this one has just been, and some speakers that have fallen through, this one has been finalized very recently. So the problem is not with you or your calendaring.
I found it in one of mine.
Thank you.
Laura, you said the Onaway part is starting at 7?
6:45 for the Onaway part. And also, as a heads up, there are 2 different links, 2 different Zoom meetings, just to keep you on your toes. But all of that information should be in the Sunday e-news from the district.
Laura, I know one of the last times that they did this, they had you put in which school you were in. Instead, they're doing the 2 Zoom links, so you don't have to do that. Is that correct?
I think Fernway, who's organizing it this time, just opted to not do an RSVP sheet, which has been done in the past. So I think that's the root of that.
I think the only other thing, and Laura, I don't know if you want to, is that they're working on trying to coordinate recruitment stuff, because that's like a huge, so I don't know, council was talking about that at the meeting. And so, and I know, I mean, I was really impressed when they were talking about, hard to get volunteers because there's no real description of the jobs. Megan Holmes, and I can't remember who worked with her on that. Megan, we have such a great starting point with that. I think Megan, and do you remember Eric who did that with?
I don't, but we definitely, we have that for sure. Yeah.
So that's a really good, but I was happy to hear that they were trying to think about that kind of vertically, because, trying to think, how do you engage, say, the Onaway parents, the 4th grade parents who are then going to be at Woodbury, or Woodbury who are going to middle school, and really trying to coordinate that recruitment effort, I think is awesome. Because it does feel like when you transition buildings, it becomes like you're in this morass of who knows what. So that was the only other council thing I thought was important.
Well, thanks everybody. And again, I know we do these, every few weeks or whatnot, but just in the meantime, encourage people, if you hear people in your neighborhood or yourself included, like if there are questions or things that, please do not hesitate to have people reach out directly to me, to their teacher, as we head back into next week. Okay. All right. Everybody have a great day, great week, great weekend.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, lots more people on there than I thought.
Hear me?